Did you know that Seann William Scott was working at Home Depot when he landed his role as Steve Stifler in American Pie? And he only received $8,000 for the role. This would of course launch one of the most legendary comedy acting careers of the 21st century. He was literally everywhere. From Dude, Where's My Car, to Road Trip, to Role Models, Seann was drawing in audiences and grossed over $5 billion at the box office. But then he vanished from the spotlight. But this could all change, because we're already on the horizon of his big comeback. Seann William Scott would take the world by storm for his role as Steve Stifler in American Pie.
Try the house down the street.
But things were looking pretty bleak beforehand. He was very much a starving artist. Seann had been working at Home Depot and California Pizza Kitchen just to survive, and his acting claim to fame up to this point was being featured in a commercial for Sunny Delight. But then, his world was turned upside down.
I lived in LA for like 3 years and...
No kidding.
And
But you came to LA to be an actor.
Yeah.
But nothing was landing. Instead of progressing as an actor, he found himself working minimum wage jobs. But that would all change with American Pie. He actually had no prior experience with comedy, but he was determined to get an acting credit. He mentioned he didn't personally connect with the character and had to channel his inner jerk by imitating someone from high school who was a bit of a bully. And with that, he knocked his audition out of the park and became the character we all know and love. What started as a minor supporting role in a comedy that no one expected to succeed turned into one of the most iconic roles in the single most influential comedy of the 21st century.
You were telling them there's no Santa Claus. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I realized I'm like,
Claus. Yeah, Stifler Claus. Sorry,
No
Stifler
Stifler
Claus.
But there was a major problem. Because he only got paid $8,000 for acting in American Pie, and no one knew who he was yet, he went straight from the American Pie set to selling churros at the zoo. But then the year 2000 came along, and things would never be the same. Riding the high of American Pie, Seann would go on to star in two of the biggest comedy hits of the year in Dude, Where's My Car and Road Trip. He would also prove his range by merging genres and landing a role in the first installment of what's become one of the most iconic horror franchises of the 21st century in Final Destination. While his days struggling to make ends meet were just in the recent past, it was very clear that these days were gone for good. And this was just the tip of the iceberg. The years 2001 to 2003 would really set the stage for the birth of the comedy icon that we all know today. In 2001, he went from playing a minor role in the original to being front and center of the American Pie sequel. He would also team up with Kevin Smith for the cult classic Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. In 2003, he teamed up with Todd Phillips again for a role in Old School. And then he would further climb up the American Pie totem pole in the third edition of the series, American Wedding. He not only replaced one of the original leads in Chris Klein, but he also became the face of the movie despite not even being the protagonist. And to top things off, he would go on to host the MTV Movie Awards, which was on the television of virtually every teenager and young adult. Seann effectively transformed from breakout actor to the face of comedy for an entire generation.
I can taste the bubbles.
Yet the best was still to come, as 2005 would mark the beginning of one of the most epic 9-year comedy acting runs we've ever seen. It started with him co-starring with Johnny Knoxville in the movie adaptation of The Dukes of Hazzard, who he would also collaborate again with on Jackass 3D and Movie 43.
You can't do anything because you're tiny and you're tied to a chair and nobody knows where you are.
Though the big name collaborations wouldn't stop there, as he would finally escape typecast hell by co-starring with Billy Bob Thornton on Mr. Woodcock in 2007, John C. Reilly on The Promotion in 2008, and then with Paul Rudd in one of the greatest heartfelt comedies of all time in 2008's Role Models. The following year, we would get the encore of Seann William Scott and the director of Dude, Where's My Car with Balls Out, Gary the Tennis Coach. And of course, in 2012, there was another American Pie sequel. Only this time, he would get paid $5 million. But this wasn't even the biggest franchise that he was part of, as he would also be added to the cast of the Ice Age franchise and voiced in 3 of the sequels during this time period. He was so big that he was even a part of the A-list targeted fiasco that would turn into movie 43, but the story of that debacle is long enough to be its own video. Seann William Scott could not miss. He was Hollywood's hottest commodity and was selling out theaters left and right. He was literally everywhere.
Can I your girlfriend? Yes.
But everything was about to come crashing down. 2014 marked the beginning of the end of Seann's status as an A-lister. He would go from starring in multiple movies a year to going years without doing a movie at all. He went from being the rage of the studios to the rage of indies. And he went from comedy's leading man to doing a cameo in a comedy sequel. But this wasn't because of a talent deficit or some major scandal. There were three big things going on. For starters, we closed the era of the golden age for comedy movies. Comedies were no longer dominating the box office, and studios by and large stopped making them. This did not bode well for someone who's the face of the genre. By the way, if you love this style of comedy, I actually wrote and directed my own 2000 style comedy, which just had its theatrical premiere, and I'll be leaving the link to the trailer in the pinned comments and in the description. And secondly, in case you forgot, we had a global pandemic and the entire industry was put on halt. And just when things looked like they were about to pick up again, we had two of the biggest strikes in Hollywood history. But what if I told you that we're on the cusp of Seann William Scott's big comeback? That's right, Seann is coming back to the big screen in the leading role of the upcoming action comedy Batman. He was also cast as the lead alongside Tim Allen and Kat Dennings in the brand new sitcom Shifting Gears, which actually just got renewed for its second season, and he is getting quite the payday. And believe it or not, we're gonna get another American Pie at some point. And all it takes is just one big hit to have another Seann William Scott heyday. No one knows what the future holds, but one thing we do know for sure is that it's Seann William Scott's world, and we're just living in it.
I'll get you a spoon so you can eat my ass.
And if Seann William Scott's rebirth has you pumped, then you're not going to want to miss this video in which I break down 5 upcoming comedy movies that are going to be reminiscent of the 2000s comedies that we all know and love. These comedies feature writers, directors, and actors of your favorite comedies, and I break it all down here.